Hello, Johan. Thank you
Hello.
for coming in our place, and then we eating together, sharing our thoughts together today. So, could you briefly explain, about you, what you are doing at the moment, your background? Could you explain?
Yeah, sure. My wife and I worked in Thailand as cross-cultural missionaries for 14 years, working in a very diverse multicultural team with many people from all over the nations. When I came back to Australia 14 years ago, I started to work reaching out to Thai people in Sydney. Then after doing that for a few years, I was asked to become the National Director of OMF in Australia, and I've been doing that for the last 11 years. So our whole team is focused on recruiting and sending people to share the good news of Jesus with people all over East Asia.
That's amazing. So I know that you are in overseas for maybe over 10 years,
Yeah.
and that you already experienced different culture. So when you see Australia, this Australian church become multicultural. So we need to learn how to deal with, how to work together with multicultural people in Australian context. So, for example, our church has 14 different nationalities. So we really need to work together, learn each other. So could you share your thought? What is important in a multi-ethnic church in Australian context, or even Australian church, the Anglo-White church, they become multicultural. So what is important?
Well, I think it's a wonderful thing that we've got people from all over the world coming to Australia. I think it's a privilege, and gives us a real privilege of sharing the good news of Jesus with people who may come from countries that have never heard the gospel before. But to do that, I think it's really important too that we have multicultural churches. I'm not saying that every church should be multicultural, but we need to have multicultural churches in our communities to show that the good news of Jesus is powerful. And the way it's powerful in that it brings people together from different nationalities who can still work together in a team and to love each other because they belong to Jesus. And belonging to Jesus is more important than my nationality and where I came from.
Absolutely.
So I'm prepared to give up part of my culture, not all of my culture, but I'm prepared to adjust myself to live in a community with people from all around the world. And that is the joy of belonging in Jesus
Thank
and
you
working
much.
with other countries.
Culture.
And I think when you do that, you become a very powerful model to the rest of the community. And they can see, wow, those people stick together because they love Jesus, not because they're Korean or because they're from Bangladesh or because they're from Thailand, but that Jesus is more important to them than all of those things.
Oh, thank you for your saying. It's so amazing. So my next question is that I think in my experience, with the multicultural people in Australian context, I think the key is love. Loving heart, love others, because we all have 14 different culture, and we tend to think through different cultural values. So I think the love is the key, and also in my ministry, in my experience, I think compromising was the key, and also forgiving each other, and then maybe cultural intelligence, CQ. CQ. So, what do you think about that kind of things? What is, if you think that is important, why is so important?
Well, it's very important to understand different cultures.
Yes.
And that's where we often lack, because we tend to think that because our family has always done it this way, or our culture has always done this thing this way, sometimes we see people doing things differently and we think it's wrong. And it's actually not wrong. Or we think that they're rude, or they've done things in the wrong way, and so we have to hold ourselves back and first of all look to understand why do they do things that way? Why do they act like that? Why do they have those expectations? And then talk to them about that. So just understanding that different people do things differently is really important. And that's one way in which we can start to move forward.
So last thing, is there any case from your experience in, can I mention Thailand? Thailand, and then
Yeah.
so you're from Australia, and they are from they are living in Thailand. So maybe is there any any case which that you deal with some issue or conflict in Thailand? So did you have any solution? Whenever you see any conflict or because of a different culture?
We had many conflicts.
Yeah, conflict.
And sometimes I felt like I dealt with them well, and other times I felt like I didn't do it well at all. So I also made many mistakes.
Yeah.
But there were many conflicts. And sometimes it was because I didn't understand where people were coming from. And there were also a few times when I had been in Thailand long enough to understand the culture and to understand not just what people were saying out loud, but also the thinking behind what they were saying.
Okay.
And then I could help to solve the situation a little bit.
Yeah. Thank you.
So, but it took a lot of experience, and it takes a long time, and sometimes it can be very difficult. Yeah.
That's why we need to go slowly and slow down, and then respect other culture, and also.
And we need to listen well.
Listen well, I think.
And that's hard.
Yeah.
Sometimes we need to think. I know what he's saying.
Yeah.
He may look angry.
Yeah.
Where is that coming from? What is his expectation?
What about learning other language? Maybe even simple language. You must say hello in other language.
Every little bit helps.
A little bit helps.
Yeah, because it shows that he's trying to understand me. So for people to feel that they're being heard and understood can help a lot in conflicts too.
I know that we focus on following Jesus and Jesus culture, kingdom culture, rather than on our culture. But I don't think it's easy, in reality. So we need to pray, and we need to listen to the Holy Spirit. We need to get wisdom from God, I think. I
know that sometimes as Westerners, when there's conflict, we want to talk it out and solve it quickly. And that can also be a problem.
Yes.
So I think sometimes we as Westerners need to be a lot more patient, and sometimes take the time to apologize well in the language that the other person can understand. But then also to give time for the relationship and trust to be restored. Because sometimes as Westerners we want to get it all out on the table quickly, and then have the other side says I'm sorry, and then everything is okay and we can move on. But I don't think all cultures work that way. Sometimes we have to learn to restore a relationship over time.
That is excellent experience. So one more thing is in my mind, when I live in Australia, so I saw many different cultures. Some culture like an individual culture, someone who grew up in Australian Western culture, and someone who come from maybe Asian or other culture, and collective culture. Some in a culture that focus on event-oriented.
We're very individualistic.
And then some culture is very collective culture. So
that's right.
So I think it's a very different one. But we have to understand each other and then forgive each other, love each other. But it takes time to understand each other. We go slow down and then compromise each other. We don't compromise.
It takes time to build a community of different cultures that trust and respect one another.
We don't compromise gospel, but we compromise with the culture they want. Wow, thank you so much for saying, Johan. It's all very wonderful, and then I understand very easily. Maybe many people learn from you. But I also know that I'm learning a lot. But you also an expert from overseas, and then you are teaching, and then you're sharing. So thank you.
Thank you. It's great to talk to you, David.
Great to talk to you. So see you next time.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.